What's up, girlfriends? Welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast. You guys know we have been doing our year of conversations, and I have just been having the time of my life, which I'm sure my guests today can relate to. It's just been an amazing, amazing series. I think we've talked to, this is probably our 44th conversation, 44th, 45th conversation, somewhere around there, and it has been absolutely incredible. So today I have the beautiful Ms. Lourdes Billingsley. I actually just met Lourdes, guys, and fell in love with her instantly. I'll say that because she has such a genuine and sweet spirit. I met her at a women's gathering just this past Friday, and she and I sat after all the other ladies left. We kind of sat and talked a little bit, and she gave me some really invaluable advice about like my branding and my next step. So I was incredibly excited when she agreed to be a part of this week's conversation. And Lourdes is a somatic practitioner. She'll tell us more about what that is. We'll actually do some exercises. This is really fun, guys. We have like some pictures to go with this. We're going to do some exercises. So this is very much engaging, and I'm so here for it. So you guys will really enjoy this. But today, so the somatic practitioner deals with the nervous system and helps to heal trauma, right? And we'll talk more
That's
about
right.
that.
Yeah,
Perfect. We'll talk more about that. But I love Lourdes, like her website, and I'll give you guys all that information. But the tagline on her website is "Life is your teacher." I love that so much. I'm sure that will be wrapped into our conversation. But just to kind of get as a starting point, we're actually going to talk about the social engagement system. And I'm going to throw it over to you, Lourdes, so you can tell us more about what that is. And I'm way too excited about this conversation. Just I'll try to help temper my excitement.
hmm So we can say that your social engagement system is definitely on.
Okay, that's good to
Yeah,
know. I think that's a
right?
good
Because
thing.
your energy is up, your face is
Yes,
bright, you're excited, you feel connected, and you feel like you can engage, and
yes.
you're doing a wonderful job right now. I imagine as people watch this, drawing people in. They're like, hey, I want to listen. I like that energy.
Oh, I love
And
it. I love it.
yeah, so that's really beautiful. And I feel the same way. I'm really excited too. And I have a lot to share.
Yes.
And I'm really intrigued that you were so keen on learning more about the social engagement system, especially given how flexible and
Mm.
active and engaged your system is. Because some people don't have that. Some people are really shy, or they feel like they can't really share themselves, or they feel
Oh,
awkward, or they're anxious, and that's a quality of when the social engagement system is not online, it's not working, it's not flexible, it's not engaging. And so there are ways to learn how to engage that
okay.
system.
That's what I was going to ask you is like, is it an innate thing or is it something that you can learn?
Well, the social engagement system is something that actually lives in our body. It's part of our entire nervous system. And how about if I show that picture now?
Oh, that'll be perfect.
Yeah, I'll show it to you so everybody can see it. Here we go. So there it is. This is the social engagement system. And this system is located in our body. It's part
Wow.
of our entire face. It's all these nerves are part of the social engagement system that connect into the heart.
Wow.
And it also connects into the lungs, also connects into the voice. You see
Mm.
this nerve here going right into the throat. These nerves work to move our lips
Oh,
and
wow.
also to help our eyes maybe get bigger if needed. Also, these nerves are connected in the frontal cortex, and it moves here up along the side of the brain. This is the
Wow.
amygdala here. And this little amygdala is the part of the brain where all of our nerves extend through our face down into our heart. And this picture doesn't show it,
Wow.
but all of these nerves that move all the way through our lungs, our stomach, our intestines, down into our legs. So this is the
Wow.
system we're talking about. And I'm going to just let people look at that for a moment. We'll just
Yeah.
take it in for a moment.
And it's interesting because when you talk about, like, I guess the brain sends those senses or
Mhm.
sensories rather, like throughout your face. So if there's excitement, then that excitement is an expression, like is expressed through your, like you said, your eyes get wider, your eyebrows even lift or raise. You may smile, like so many different things that's happening.
That's
But
right.
I find it interesting too that it connects to the heart.
That's right. I'm going to explain that to you about that. So now that we've looked at that picture, so this system is designed to orient us toward pleasure in life,
Very interesting.
right? So we're using our eyes, our ears, our sense of smell. We're kind of using the system to look around and take in what's good in life. I just taught a class called Orienting Toward Goodness.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that's its primary function. Oh, there's my mommy. I want to love her and kiss her, because this system is very important for us as infants,
Right.
because this system isn't fully functioning yet when we're first born, and it develops and itself as we engage with our parents and our caregivers. And it's all happening through the face and through sound and through connection. This
Right.
is this is where we develop a sense of safety and
Wow.
connection with others, and we learn the nervous system learns how to regulate, learns how to keep us calm. So if we're in a state of excitation where something's wrong and we're looking for help, that
Right.
system helps us to find it. It also sends cues to our mother or our father, our caregivers, saying,
Wow.
something's wrong, I need something, I'm crying. And then they come and they bring you what you need and help the system to calm down.
Wow.
So the primary role of the system is to orient us towards what's good, towards pleasure, towards comfort, towards beautiful things, towards good food, and it's all about that.
So it's
But it's
almost like a catalog, like your life is cataloging those things that bring you pleasure and joy. And so when you feel the need for that, you're kind of going through that catalog and grabbing those things that's closest or
Yeah,
going
you could
towards those
say that.
things.
That's really cool. I've never heard it like that. That's a really nice way to put it.
I love
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, it is. And that cataloging, that's a great word. It is memory, isn't it? The
Yeah.
nervous system is recording and remembering ways to settle and feel comforted.
Yeah.
So the secondary role of the social engagement system is to alert us to danger. So we might hear a sound and we look, or we might see something,
Wow.
or the system is like, okay, we're on alert, we need to do something to provide more safety, right? And then the heart starts to pump and the hormones start to flow for fight or flight if necessary.
Wow.
So you might hear a big sound and go, oh, what's that? And then, oh, the book just fell off the shelf.
Right.
Oh gosh, I'll go pick it up. And you come back and then you settle down,
Right.
right? The
Wow.
system regulates itself. But for many people, that system isn't working properly. A lot of people who have experienced trauma or didn't get the right
Mm,
kind of soothing when they were young, they're stuck in that alert state.
right.
They're
Wow.
not in the pleasure state. They're stuck in the alert, like looking for what might be wrong, looking for someone might say something, or how are they looking at me, or
Right.
what was that sound? They're always a little bit, because the system doesn't know how to move back to its natural state. And that's
Wow.
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the story of trauma, I should say.
That is so, I mean, I'm like such a visual person. So I'm literally, as you're
Mm-hmm.
talking, I'm literally thinking through my own life from, as a child to even adulthood, and just thinking of those moments where I guess I can see the system at work. And I always share this one story, a couple of things that I'm afraid of is I'm afraid I had a fear of heights. And so my
Mm-hmm.
body automatically starts responding whenever I'm in like somewhere that's elevated. So even to the point where if I'm on an escalator, I can get through
Uh-huh.
the first floor, but by the time I start getting to that second level, my knees start shaking, my heart start racing, my hands start getting
Mm-hmm.
sweaty, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all of those fear responses starts kicking in.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Is that all a part of it as well?
Yeah, it's all interconnected. So we have this really long nerve called the polyvagal nerve, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard of that. You know, there's a lot going on about that and how you can hack your polyvagal nerve for greater happiness, greater health, like a whole list
Right.
of things. And that's true. And that poly means many.
Yeah.
And so this is a nerve that runs through the entire body and it has many tendrils to it. And there's the vagus nerve, which is the nerve, which is actually another name for the social engagement system.
Okay.
And it's the nerve that's running down the front of the body. And then there's the dorsal nerve that runs down the back of our spine. And so this whole system is designed to keep us safe, keep us alive.
Now, how so alive? I guess just that recognizing danger and that kind of flight or fight or flight response. Is that connected?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't realize this, but we recognize our nervous system recognizes danger way before our frontal cortex does, before our brain does. Because our nervous system is very sensitive. It's always sensing things and getting a feel for things. And it's designed to move us towards pleasure and good things in life. But it's also designed to let us know when something's wrong so we can act.
Right.
And so when something's wrong, once the system determines that it's actually a real life dangerous situation, the first thing the nervous system will do is it'll shut down the frontal cortex. It'll raise the heart rate. It'll expand the lungs. It shuts down the stomach.
Wow.
Right? Because we don't want any digestive juices. We don't want any extra energy going into digestion at that point. And we don't want to be thinking. We want to be acting instinctively. I gotta run. I gotta shout. I gotta go like this, you know. So we don't want to be sitting there going, oh, look, everything's on fire. Well, that's interesting. We need to act, right?
Right.
So our thinking brain will shut down.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? And we'll be working purely on instinct.
Yeah, that is so interesting. Now, I don't want to dumb the conversation down, but the first thought that comes to mind for me is when you get like when they say you get goosebumps or the hairs on your neck stands up, or you know, if something's happening. Is that a part of it, like a response?
Oh, that's right. That's part of the response.
Okay.
That is totally part of the response. It's like everything sensation wise comes to life in your body.
Right.
So that's why some women can like lift cars off their children.
Wow. And it's interesting because oftentimes if I'm talking to someone, I'll get like just like goosebumps all over. And a lot of times it's like they've said something and I have like this, you know, response, but I'm not always able to connect like the response to what's being said. So there's almost like there's this underlining thing, but it kind of makes sense from what you're saying is that the brain shuts down, but it's just the nervous system, I guess, responding. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, you did. That's really interesting because you're kind of talking about another level of relating that a lot of us don't necessarily pay attention to.
Yeah.
Which is that we're experiencing a lot of sensation when we talk to other people. And like when I get the chills, like sometimes my clients will say something to me and I'll get the chills and like I know, okay, that's right on. We're on the right path. Like I'm getting it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like this connection there. It's like you feel it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's something to that. And sometimes we can connect with someone and we feel afraid or uncomfortable, or we start to get really nervous, or something's going on. And we can't make sense of like, why am I feeling this way with this person? They haven't done anything.
Right.
But then sometimes there's a nervous system memory because the nervous system's recording everything, like you said earlier, like a catalog.
Yeah.
It's remembering all of these experiences that we have. And if some of them are stored in a fight or flight way, like in a protective way, some are stored in a joyful way, like, oh yeah, that reminds me that some of them are stored in a protective way. And then our nervous system goes, danger, don't go that way, or don't, because it's a stored memory that's getting stimulated by another external circumstance, or maybe just even a person's vibe.
Right.
And bring that out. And we're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I'm going to walk away from this person, you know?
No,
Or I'm going to walk towards.
yeah. This is
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, so fascinating. I'm like, my brain is thinking about it on so many different levels, because on the one hand, you think about how do you build that up? Like, how do you or can you increase like your sensitivity to the good, or are there things that you can do as, to increase that sensitivity?
Yes, absolutely. There's things you can do to increase your orientation, to use
Okay.
that word, your orientation toward goodness. And there are things you can do to decrease your orientation toward danger.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a real important thing.
Yes.
A lot of clients that I work with have experienced trauma, or they grew up in a household where it didn't feel very safe.
Right.
Didn't feel very safe. Maybe dad and mom were alcoholics, or maybe mom was kind of narcissistic, or maybe dad blew up a lot, or maybe they were
Yeah.
beat up, or maybe, where you just don't feel safe. You didn't feel safe in your childhood environment, which lends a person to always be oriented towards whether or not I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Am I safe? What's going on? What's going to happen next? Listening in the bedroom when their parent, is mom and dad fighting, what's going on? So you kind of develop this habit of, and it becomes unconscious.
Yeah.
For some people it's conscious. Most people it's not, that you're always looking for what might go wrong.
I
And
think you just poked something there for me.
I did.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share about it, or
I mean, when you said looking for something to go wrong, I have, it's like you get excited about something and then you immediately be like, well, that's probably not going to work the way that I think it's going to work. So I'll be grateful if it just happens like this. Like, it's almost like you're not excited about the 100% of what it could be, but you just find a place. I'll be just satisfied with the 50%, whether it's someone's response or something that it's almost like you're having a party, right? And you're inviting people and you have this list of, 50 people that you want to invite. And you automatically say to yourself, well, I know all 50 of them are not going to come, and so you're almost setting yourself up for the failure or the disappointment. But to curb the disappointment, you kind of lower your standards and your expectations.
There you go. Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I would call a byproduct of that orientation to what might go wrong. And so that can manifest in a lot of different ways. You just gave an example of how that manifests for you. It can manifest in a lot of different ways for people.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel like a therapy session.
Yeah. So you asked a question, and let's go back to that for a second.
Yeah.
The question was, are there activities or exercises you can do? And we can just practice one together right now. I'm sure it'll feel really good to do it in this moment too. So one of the things that the social engagement system does is it's always orienting. It's looking around and kind of determining where we are in relationship to others, where we are in the space. And that's always happening through the eyes. And we don't really notice that we do that. It's a very unconscious thing. So, and the reason why it's unconscious is because we're talking about the autonomic nervous system, which just does what it does. Yeah. It beats your heart, you're breathing, you're digesting. We're not actively engaged in that. So the way to become actively engaged with the autonomic nervous system and to boost it, to give it support, is to start by acknowledging that this social engagement system is looking around and orienting. So we can literally like plug our awareness in through this exercise that I'm going to show you. And it's real simple. Okay. Are you ready? And everybody can try it.
Yes.
Okay. So it's real simple. So we're just going to look around our environment.
Okay.
So just take a look around, noticing the different things that are around you. I'm going to do it with you. And as you're looking around the room, in your
Mm,
space, you're noticing what's around you. You might notice things that you like, you appreciate
yeah.
the things that you have there. And you can also even like look over your shoulder. Just kind of see what's behind you
Yep.
and just sort of noticing. And as you're looking around, you can see, oh, what changed just from doing that? What are you noticing is changing?
I feel just happy. Like I can
Uh-huh.
feel like a lot of joy
Mm-hmm.
because the space that I'm in is my office. And everything around me is things that, like, at every corner, there's something, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
statue or whether it's a picture or a
Uh-huh.
painting or an award,
Mm-hmm.
or so it's just
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by things that I love.
So you have a lot of goodness around you right
I
now.
do. Yes.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
there anything in particular that you really appreciate in your space that you'd be willing to talk about?
Sure. I'm trying to, there's so much, but I'm trying to see. I don't know if some, I mean, I have books, which is, as an author, I love books. As a reader, as a writer, I love books.
Mm-hmm.
I have,
So what is it about books that makes you feel so good inside?
it's the possibilities. I think for me,
Uh-huh.
books represent possibilities, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
stories of other people's lives or stories that people have made up, whether it's books that are nonfiction, where someone has a subject that they're, have presented themselves as an expert in.
Mm-hmm.
That excites me.
Mm-hmm.
It just just possibilities.
So when you're aware of those, what you're sharing right now, that possibility, what do you
Yeah,
notice in your body?
excitement. I notice that I feel lighter. I feel
Uh-huh.
clearer, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like
It
sometimes
does.
sometimes I can feel a little thickness, but it's like when
Mm-hmm.
I release and just kind of take all that in, it's just like it's more easy flowing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total
Okay.
sense. That makes total sense. So that's how powerful the social engagement system is.
Oh,
Just
wow.
by looking around in your environment and noticing what you appreciate and talking about what you love,
Wow.
your nervous system opens and expands. It feels more clear. That sort of heavier feeling or that other feeling that you just mentioned dissipates
Yeah.
and it opens, right? Because we just informed your nervous system by looking around that you are safe
Yeah.
and that you are in a safe place.
And so
And
social engagement, it's not, I was thinking that it had to do with your engagement with others, but is it engagement with your environment, whatever that is?
there, I see three levels of it.
Okay.
It's the engagement with your environment, and then it's the connection with yourself,
Mm.
right? Because you engaged with your environment, and then I invited you to notice what was happening in your body,
Yeah.
and you felt this clarity. And then it's also about connecting with others because once we feel connected to ourselves, then our heart opens, our social engagement system is feeling tone and balance, and suddenly we
Wow.
want to talk and we feel safe to be with other
Exactly.
people. You know, I'm thinking about this beautiful young woman that I worked with a while back who had a very narcissistic parent.
Mm.
She just spent her life like this because when you have a parent
Wow.
that's so profoundly self-absorbed, it's all about them. That's what narcissism is, you know.
Yeah.
Never about the child, it's always about the parent. Those kinds of children end up being like this, like they're like looking around life like this, you know. And when I taught her about the social engagement
Wow.
system the first time we did it and she was able to drop into it, she was like, oh, this is the I really have
Wow.
never really seen my environment.
Wow.
And she just opened and softened. It was so beautiful to witness. So
Wow.
very beautiful to witness. This is an incredibly powerful tool. with the nervous system. This is the first thing we learn in somatic experiencing. So I studied with the Somatic Experiencing Institute, and Peter Levine developed somatic experiencing.
Okay.
And Peter Levine is the one who kind of figured out that, oh, we can actually tap into our social engagement system through
Wow.
orienting. That's the exercise. Because if we're afraid and our frontal cortex is shut down and we're like trapped inside of ourselves, how do we get out of that?
Right.
Get out of that by realizing and recognizing that we're in a safe space. And oh, yeah. And then the whole body starts to remember that it can relax.
So many questions. I mean, one of the things, I mean, to kind of contrast the child that grows up with narcissistic parents, how would that look for a child? Like my parents were incredibly liberal and they were very free, and it was, pretty much, figure it out and understand, they just kind of gave us the freedom to just really navigate life. Um, to some people, it probably felt like, you kind of had way too much freedom, but, so it's
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
That's a really good point, because when we have, so there's this like magical balance of contact that we need to have in order
Yes.
to mature, right? And sometimes when we're given a lot of space, we're like, we kind of get lost.
Yes.
We need some contact. We need somebody to kind of bring it in a little bit. So then you can kind of have a little bit of a loss of sense of self in a way, if you don't get enough contact. That might be with parents who can't pay attention, so therefore you have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Parents just give it to you. Kids like that might not have gotten enough contact, so then they're never quite sure where they are, because that contact really helps to bring that.
Yeah. Wow.
So for someone who has that, the goal is to help them find themselves from going out, like they're out too much, right? Then we got to come in, and then they come in and like, oh, there I am, okay. And a lot of people think our sense of self comes from what we do.
Yeah.
But that is not it. The sense of self comes from contact with our nervous system and in our body, because that's where we experience the essence of who we are.
Yeah.
Rather than who we are based on what we do.
Exactly.
Right? Because then if you're out there all the time, it gets exhausting.
Yes.
How do I stay here connected to myself and then express myself from there? Yeah. So it's quite interesting. It's a beautiful study.
It really is. I'm like, where's this been all my life? I mean,
that's how I felt. That's how I felt too.
I mean, everything that you're saying, I mean, because I'm the youngest of four. And so my parents were, very, very available, but they were also, kind of, my mother used to always say, use your best judgment. And so I would say, hey, I want to go hang out with my friends. What time do I need to get in? Use your best judgment. And so at 14, you're kind of like, okay, what's my best judgment? I'm not sure, so
yeah,
that was kind of like that freedom. But I mean, when you're talking about feeling like you're so much out there, that's literally how I always feel. It's like that, like there's so much I can do, but it's hard to kind of bring it all in to say, okay, no, this is what I want to do. And then even when I get there, when I kind of, because for me, yoga was really helpful. Just like the whole idea of finding your center and getting to your breathing, like that was so incredibly helpful for me. But then it's like, once you get it, now how do you hold on to it?
Yeah. And how do you feel secure in trusting that thing that's come? Yeah.
Exactly.
One step at a time. And I think after time we learn, especially as we get older, I'm 58.
Yeah.
So now that we kind of start to realize that, oh, there's something special in there that I think I can trust more. Can trust it more, and it's easier to stay with it. We don't get so distracted,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
This feels like
so
a therapy
beautiful
session. It really is.
Well, I really appreciate your willingness to share and go and have such a deep conversation with me about it.
No, because I think just the introduction of it, because the reality is that a lot of us, I think, experience it, but we don't know how to call it or what it is. And so listening to
Right.
you is like, oh, that's what, it's just making it make more sense.
Yeah.
And so it makes it more interesting because it's like, I want to know
Mhm.
more. And I not just want to know more for the sake of knowing more, but as it pertains to me, the individual. So I
Because
would
it's
imagine
so helpful.
exactly.
It's so helpful. People come to me that have suffered for years and years with what we call a dysregulated nervous system, a nervous system that
Mm.
is either really shut down and they're depressed, or it's like going all the time and they're loaded with sensation,
Oh
or
my gosh.
they have anger outbursts, or they're too emotional, or, all these different things. And when I start to explain to them about the nervous system, people cry with relief. That's what that is.
Exactly.
When I read Peter Levine's book for the first time, it's called the Unspoken Voice.
Mm.
And I read that, I was just like, oh my God, that's me.
Wow.
Like nobody could explain to me or help me understand or really help me heal the PTSD that I had from my childhood trauma.
Right.
And then I read Peter's book. I'm like, this is it. And that's how I got onto the path in doing this
Wow.
work with my clients, because it's so liberating to understand the most powerful and important part of our body.
Right.
In Portuguese, they call it aparelho, your
Okay.
apparatus, your
Wow.
body. That learning how it actually works, and that as a conscious being living in this body, we can work with it in a way to bring so much joy and
Yeah.
happiness into our lives.
I love this. As you're talking, I'm sitting here trying to, channel like my listener because I feel like they're like, ask her this. I want to know. But there's no way that I can ask the many questions that so many people would have.
Hmm.
But the work that you do, I know you do individual work. Do you do group work as well? And how can people get
Yeah.
connected with you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I do group work, and people can sign up for my classes through my website. And if you go to my website, you can sign up on my mailing list there, and
Yeah.
you'll get emails from me with invitations to come and participate.
Actually signed up
Yeah.
on your email listing this morning, so
Okay.
I'm all for it. Looking forward to it. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
really
think what other
beautiful.
questions I have, because I think with the trauma, it's not always overt trauma, right? So there could be some things that happen that's traumatic, um, that people may bury and not really understand that it's there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because there's trauma that like has a capital T.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a surgery, or maybe you got into a car accident, or maybe somebody mugged you, or something, you were abused when you were growing up. And then there's other kinds of traumas that are overwhelming experiences, but we kind of just,
Yeah.
they're not really on the timeline so much because we found a way to cope with it. And trauma is not defined by the event. The
Mm.
individual is the one who's determining whether or not it's a traumatic experience,
Wow.
and their nervous system, and whether or not they were able to respond appropriately and recover from the experience. So trauma is embedded. That's the word I want to use. It
Yeah.
becomes embedded when we can't complete the fight or flight response to the
Oh,
event.
wow.
And so when we are in a fight or flight situation, or a life-threatening situation, and fight or flight kicks in, then the body wants to respond to that, either by pushing something away, or running, or whatever, yelling, whatever may be called. Sometimes we can't respond, and we go into what's called freeze,
Mm.
and we're there stuck. That's what I was describing with the girl who grew up with a narcissistic
Right.
parent. She could never say anything. She just would have to hold herself perfectly still so this person wouldn't blow up. So even though the system is mobilizing to act, to stop the event, if it can't,
Yeah.
where does all that energy go? It
Wow.
stays stuck in the body, in memory, in the nervous system. And
Wow.
that's why like when a veteran comes back from war, if he hears a car backfire, he'll
Yeah.
drop to the ground because his body will remember his time in the war,
Wow.
thinking that that was a gunshot, where most of us would just turn and look.
Exactly. And it's crazy because I'll share this with you. I had a graduation celebration for my daughter over. Oh, I'm sorry, my dog is doing his circling now. I had a graduation celebration for my daughter over the summer, and my nephew, who lives in inner city Philadelphia, he came, for the celebration, and a balloon popped, and everybody's just kind of talking. A balloon popped, and he literally hit the ground.
Because he's
And
waiting for gunshots.
yeah, and everybody
Yeah.
kind of looked, and we kind of laughed, but it's like he's like, I'm sorry, like he was really kind of shaken up. And it was just, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just used to gunshots. And it was so, it's so, like, we laugh, but the reality of, like, just hearing this conversation, having this conversation with you, the reality of what's happening in his nervous system because of the trauma of living in the inner city is something that, one, is not funny, but two, I don't think we think about in
We don't make
terms
the
of trauma.
connection.
Right.
Yeah, we don't make the connection. And, I'm getting the chills as you say that because it makes me think of COVID
Yes.
and how traumatized people are from the pandemic and how many
Exactly.
people have not recovered from that yet.
Ah,
Even though the COVID numbers are way down, people are still very afraid of getting sick,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
understandable because we spent what, 2 years cooped up in our homes and we couldn't go
exactly.
out. And depending on your inner orientation to sickness and disease or what
Yeah,
you could be having a very big response to this and have not really gotten over it yet. So there's a lot there, and people don't realize how we're living from a place of fear. Even 9/11,
exactly.
or
Yeah,
9/11,
yeah,
how that scared us all.
yeah. I was thinking about a professor. I was in undergrad at the time, and I remember one of my professors, she actually had to take the rest of the semester off because she was afraid to leave her house. And I think she lived like outside of DC or something. So she would take the
Hmm.
train to the campus, and she was afraid to get on a train. She was afraid to drive. Like, she was just terrified. So she ended up having to take the rest of the semester off. Um,
Yeah,
but I think even those underlining, you said something that I had to write down when you said when you don't have the opportunity to respond and recover.
that's right.
I think that's so key
It
because
is key.
yeah. And then I think that can have underlining trauma that, kind of exists within the system for years because you've
That's
never had the
right.
opportunity to recover from that.
That's right. It's exactly right. And I think a lot of us have not recovered from the pandemic. We're trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to get back into life, but there's something that's still unprocessed
Ah,
in there that needs to
Jesus.
get
Yeah.
processed so we can feel safe again and trust our own body's ability to protect us from illness and things like that.
Exactly. Ah,
Because of that big event with the pandemic, we've stopped trusting that.
wow. And
Yeah.
then I think, like, on maybe a more social level as well, is I know for myself, I started working from home. And I think when the pandemic first hit, I probably did not leave my house for like 40 days. Like, literally did not leave my house. I didn't go. The first time I left the house, my husband had changed all the screens in the windows. And he was like, "Come look at the screens, like look at it from the outside." And I was like, "No." I'm like, in my head, it was like COVID was just out there waiting for you to open the
The
door,
minute you walk out of your house, it's going to get you.
Exactly,
Yes,
because it was
really.
just it was like pandemonium. Like, everybody was
That
so
was
afraid.
it was really intense. And I, remember going out to the grocery store and
Mm,
just my whole body, whenever I'd see someone, my whole body would go "Broop," like
yeah,
"Brr," you know,
yeah,
afraid,
exactly.
just very intense.
And then I think on top of all of that was like the social unrest that we were experiencing as a nation. It was just so much. And I know for myself, I'm still, um, I guess, traumatized and trying to
Hmm.
figure out like what's the new
Hmm.
sense of normal. Like, share with my husband, like everything feels like so, um, It almost feels like you're in a dream where
Mm-hmm.
everything just feels like I don't feel connected to a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was like very much engaged and, social engagement
Yeah.
and all that. But now I feel very
Yeah.
disconnected and I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So that is really beautiful that you mentioned that, because I think now many of us have to reestablish a sense of safety
Yes.
and really say, okay, it's over. We're not in the pandemic anymore. It's over. And finding that sense of safety within ourselves through socially engaging,
Yeah.
moving towards, this is another beautiful exercise, moving towards what feels good,
Mm,
and start small.
yeah.
Start small. Engage with your family, engage with a small group of friends, go see people outside, and start to help your system recognize that it's over.
Oh, I love that.
And the thing that's really challenging about COVID and the pandemic is that it was an invisible threat.
Exactly.
Well, how do we know it's gone now?
Exactly. Right. Right. Now you said
So we have to
something
start small.
You said something that just about everything you're saying, I'm kind of grabbing it because it all is so good. But you said something that triggered a thought when we first started talking about the nervous system, the social, what is it, the social engagement system. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about as a child, as a baby, and you cry and your mother come and nurture you or your father. Um, but then you said something that kind of connected for me, is that we have to learn how to nurture ourselves as well. And
That's right.
so when we recognize something that has us afraid or fearful, even as adults, trying to have those social or those mechanisms in place to soothe yourself, right?
Exactly right. To learn how to self-soothe. That's
Yeah.
it. And one of the powerful ways to do that is to actually look around where you are.
I love that.
Because the nervous system doesn't understand English. It speaks the language of sensation. It's like a foreign
I'm
language.
like poetry. That's
Isn't that beautiful?
that
So
is.
if you want to settle your nervous system, then you can start by looking around. You can do it with touch,
Yeah.
you know, and you can say things to yourself like, okay, I'm safe. There's nothing going on around me. But you have to give your body contact as you do that. And you want to look around so your nervous system can register the safety. There's
Exactly.
nobody coming. My mean parent
Oh,
isn't there anymore. Oh, okay. And then it starts to downshift. You don't
exactly.
want to be in fifth gear all the time, and you don't want to be all the way down in one
Right.
either. You got to be somewhere there in this nice homeostasis.
Ah,
Yeah. So we can learn how to bring that to ourselves.
exactly. This is such a
Yeah,
beautiful conversation.
it is.
And
I'm
I'm
so
like,
happy we did
I
this.
am too. And I'm like looking at the clock. I'm like, no, I don't want the time to be over.
Yeah.
But I'm
So I want to offer to all of your beautiful
absolutely.
friends out there this exercise. If you can do this for yourself, of orienting towards what feels good,
Yes.
move towards what feels good. What makes you feel good?
Mm,
Do that. And then also kind of looking around, noticing what's in your world.
yeah.
Notice the beautiful things in your world. Notice the beautiful people that are there. Notice the trees. I mean, fall's an amazing time. I don't know when folks will see this, but there's so much to look at. There's so much beauty, and to orient towards that, if you do that every day and daily as much as you can, you're going to bring such a great gift to yourself.
Yeah. I feel it already. I tell you,
Yeah.
I feel 1,000,000%. Even coming into the conversation, I told you I was so excited and, just the possibilities of what I would learn. But I had no idea how impactful. Like I can already feel the impact of it. And already seeing myself taking like the exercise in and of itself was like, wow, I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
and see the real change and feel the real difference.
Yeah,
This has been incredible.
it
Been
has. Thank you
absolutely
so much.
amazing.
It's a huge gift
Thank
you've
you.
given me to
You
share
are a
this.
gift. You are an absolute gift. And thank you so much for
Thank
just agreeing
you.
to, just join me on this platform and sharing so much wisdom and knowledge. I'm going to point everybody to your website. because,
Okay.
and I'm definitely going to sign up because I feel like I need more of this, just probably a more personalized assessment
Mhm. Mhm.
because I find it so beneficial. But Lourdes, this has been amazing. It's been
Thank you so
absolutely
much.
amazing.
It's
So
been an
thank
honor.
you. And
Mhm.
thank you
You're
guys for
welcome.
tuning in. I mean, hopefully you all got some. I'm sure you got something. I don't have to say hopefully. I'm sure you all got something. I feel like I even look different. I feel lighter. I feel brighter. I feel happier. Like it was
Mhm.
just something about this conversation. So thank you so much again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, blessings, guys.